Rich Burkett here, your host for the Free Skeptic channel. The topic today is a better theory of epistemology, knowledge, belief, and truth. Okay, before I start, I actually was working on another video about objective ethics, and I got into this. I said, oh, wow, let me do this video first. And so the next video will be about objective reality, and ethics and knowledge and belief. And there's a lot of things, this is a very deep topic, so there's a lot that's been written about it. And so in order to keep the video brief, I've left out a lot of information, and you're welcome to comment about what other strains of thought that I hadn't touched on. Feel free to comment. Okay, many epistemologists have proposed theories about knowledge, belief, and truth. Before I start, I know, I believe, I think, I understand, I learned, I'm informed about, and I'm aware of have been used interchangeably and synonymously. Some epistemologists have defined knowledge as a form of true belief, with qualifiers that address counter examples that are mostly rare or improbable hypotheticals. They include justified true belief, JTB, justified true belief with no false premises, JTB plus N, infallibilist true belief, virtuous true belief, VTB, and reliabilist true belief, RTB. Now, I'm not going to go into these. These are just an overview of these strains of belief. You can research these on your own. I might even provide links in the comments or the description as to where you can find out more about those. An alternative counter-thesis called knowledge first, proposed by Timothy Williamson and others, asserts that knowledge precedes belief. I had come to this conclusion independent before I knew. As I was researching my topic, I came across this information, which leads me to believe I didn't, the originator of discovering knowledge first, but I've rediscovered it. And now there's a lot of insights here that I'm not sure if I'm the originating discoverer or just rediscovering somebody else's thought. I don't know. You can certainly comment about that. I propose a better theory of knowledge, belief, and truth. Knowledge can be defined as separate pieces of information and accumulation of information. So there's two different ways you can look at knowledge. The accumulation of pieces of information forms a knowledge base from which beliefs are formed. Knowledge bases are stored in human memory, animal memory, computer memory, including artificial intelligence and the internet. Propositional knowledge is or includes information that is true, not completely true, not accurately true, false, or of indeterminate truth. Truth is a relationship between something or things and their qualities. Existence, probable, and possible are some qualities. All beliefs are propositional. Now, if you have an example where a belief is not propositional, that is, that has a truth value, and are preceded by some earlier acquired information and knowledge. Awareness precedes belief. Later acquired information and knowledge could confirm or contradict earlier information, knowledge, and/or beliefs. One distinction between knowledge and belief is who or what is capable of acquiring and retaining knowledge and belief. Dictionaries define belief as mental state, subjective attitude, strong feeling, a state of habit of mind, among others. These definitions suggest that belief requires a believer. Without believers, beliefs don't exist. Now you can, again, comment on this, whether it's true or not, or completely true. I'd be interested in hearing your comments. Informational knowledge does not require a knower. True belief knowledge requires a knower and a believer. Information is or could be stored electronically on the internet or in memory devices, including disks, sticks, and cards, or stored in documents, books, articles, dictionaries, encyclopedias, photos, recordings, and all are incapable of forming beliefs. Humans, animals, computers, artificial intelligence, and internet are all capable of acquiring and retaining knowledge, retaining information and knowledge. Computers, artificial intelligence, and the internet could and do acquire information and knowledge about beliefs. Whether computers and artificial intelligence can acquire and retain beliefs depends on how broadly belief is defined. Could computers and artificial intelligence derive or acquire beliefs independent of their programmers and others' beliefs? That's a good question. If there are no credible contradictions between pieces of information, then the information is more probably true or false, and more probable a belief will be retained and unchanged. If there are credible contradictions or disagreements among pieces of information, then at least some information is less probably true or false, and more probable belief will be reassessed, adjusted, doubted, abandoned, not believed, and or disbelieved. Sources of information can be in-person, direct sensory experiences, photos, recordings, documents, direct eyewitness testimonials, or indirect second-hand hearsay. While acquiring information, an assessment could be made about its truthfulness or not. Factors include the source's past accuracy, credibility, reliability, and also the reasonableness and credibility and plausibility of the information itself. Information and its assessments are or could be stored in memory for retrieval later. Later information relevant to earlier information, when compared, could in some ways agree and or contradict each other. The greater number of pieces of information accumulated, a pattern, including no pattern, could be recognized. If most or all the information pieces and their assessments agree, then information's truthfulness or falseness is more probable. Truth possibilities and probabilities. Okay, and here's where I get absolutely true or false. The probability is 100%. Certainly true or false, the probability is 100% or close to 100%. Probably true or false, the probability is greater than 50%. Improbably true or false, the probability is less than 50%. Possibly true or false, the probability is greater than or could be equal to 0. Impossibly true or false is the probability is 0. Okay. Absolutely, all absolutes are certains, aka called absolutely certains, but not all certains are absolutes. All absolutes and certains are probable, but not all probables are certains or absolutes. All probables, certains, and absolutes are possibles. All impossibles are improbables, but not all improbables are impossibles. Okay, now I've combined the true-false possibilities. And what this shows is that all these things here are impossible. That is, you can't have it be absolutely true and absolutely false. You can't be absolutely true and certainly false. You can't be absolutely true and probably false. In fact, the only absolute truth is when false is impossible. Now, I notice here is a pattern here of these possibles, going from absolutely true, impossible. You can see the chart here. So let me. Now, they combine true, false possibilities. Absolutely true or impossibly false. Certainly true or possibly false. Probably true or improbably false. Probably false or improbably true. Probably, certainly false or possibly true. And I'll explain it. Absolutely false is impossibly true. Absolute knowledge, beliefs, and truth include analytical, semantic, definitional knowledge, beliefs, and truth. Absolutely true or false includes categorically, unconditionally, unqualified, undoubtedly, undeniably, necessarily, eternally, universally, immutably, and unchangeably true or false. Examples of absolute true knowledge and belief: 1 equals 1. And our reason I say is because of our understanding of the definitions of 1 and equals, and also the word order is important. You can't say equals 1, 1. You can't say 1, 1 equals. It has to be 1 equals 1. These are by definition. And so other absolute truths are 1 plus 1 equals 2. Again, it's our understanding of the words 1 plus and equals and 2. And the word order, it has to be in this particular order or it's not true. You can't say 1 equals 1 plus 2. You can't say that. That's not true. Okay, now we're going into geometry. Circumference equals pi times diameter. That's by this here. And that's derived from the definitional pi equals circumference divided by the diameter. That's the definition of pi. Now you can say no matter how small or how big the circle, these ratios are true. And then we get into physical definitions. These are definitions of physics, not determinations of physical constants. That's slightly different. Force equals mass times acceleration. That's how we've defined force. Actually, what force is, what mass is force divided by the acceleration. Okay. Examples of absolute false knowledge and beliefs include 1 equals 2. 1 plus 1 equals 3. Circumference equals 3 times the diameter. And pi equals 3. Force equals acceleration. Here we're missing, these are actually different units. Force and acceleration are different units. It's missing the mass. You could say, well, maybe mass equals 1. But no, mass doesn't just equal the number 1. Now, all these could be false, could be true if the definitions of the words change. Maybe there might come a time when 2 means 3 or 3 means 2. Unlikely. That's why we have a very stable numbering system that's lasted thousands of years. Okay. Knowledge, beliefs, and truths about mathematics, geometry, and physical definitions are absolute. That could not possibly change in the future. Certain or convincing knowledge and beliefs include no credible past or current contradictory or disagreed assessments, but could possibly contradict or disagree in the future. One distinction between absolute and non-absolute certainty is whether a reason or no reason exists to believe that the future, no matter how distant, could change the assessment of truth. Scientific truth could be experimental, statistical, and evidentiary. Now, I didn't actually get into the statistical. I only talk about experimental here, and maybe in other videos I'll talk about statistical truth and other evidentiary truths. Okay, many experiments are propositional to assess the truth of a theory, hypothesis, or a proposition. Other experiments are inquisitive to discover new, previously unknown information. Okay, with propositional experiments, if subsequent repetitions of an experiment all can confirm the results of the first experiment, then the proposition is more probably true or false. More confirmations reassessed to more certainly true or false. Okay. If a possibility of future result of an experiment could be different and contradict earlier experiments, then the certainty cannot be absolute. Karl Popper identified this as falsifiability. Okay. Future changes in the truth assessments that are not limited to the past events are the changes in the qualities and possibly less than from new contradictory information. Changes in assessments about the past events are from new contradictory information and excludes future changes in the qualities. An example would be grass is green. Well, in the future, grass could change to being not green. Now, if we say the current or past grass is green, then it doesn't matter whether or not the future grass turns green or not. Some people hold beliefs that are improbable or impossibly true by most other people's assessments. They could believe their beliefs are possibly true now and or in the future. How much they are invested in a belief could affect their willingness to reassess the truthfulness of the belief. The following 5 examples show the relationship between the knowledge, belief, and truth. Now, you may not be interested in all this, and it takes time, a little bit of time to go through these, so if this video seems to be getting too long for you, you can use the chapters to go to individual examples. Okay, infant children. Infant children have no innate inborn beliefs, yet they can have direct sensory experiences that add to their knowledge. Infants can experience hunger, thirst, cold, warmth, hot, pain, discomfort, light, dark, and more without having any beliefs about them other than wanting to avoid some of them in the future. This example shows knowledge precedes belief. Okay. Number 2, this is about immortality. Any one human's mortality cannot be absolutely certain until death. Billions of humans are currently alive, also known as pre-death. All humans born more than 130 years ago, and you can say, well, maybe there are some people who are actually more than 130 years. Okay, you can change that to 200 or 1,000 years ago, are dead. All currently alive humans will at some point in the future become born 130 years ago and will certainly die. This example shows a certainty that is not absolute, but has as close to absolute certainty that could be. 3, this is the flat earth thing. Belief that the earth is flat is improbable, if not impossibly true. Okay, I'll use some example here. Here's one conception of the flat earth, that there's a ring of ice, supposedly Antarctica, that keeps all the water in. And there's a dome. Now, whether or not the sun and the moon are inside the dome or outside the dome, or the stars are in or outside the dome, that varies from different ideas of flat earth. One thing about flat earth theory is gravity is explained by the upward acceleration of this. Now the question is, what's causing the acceleration, and how fast are you going if you continually accelerate that the acceleration of gravity? At some point you're approaching the speed of light, I imagine. Okay, here's another example of the flat earth conception. Okay. Belief that, let's see, where were we? Yet many flat earth believers are so invested to believe it's possibly true despite overwhelming evidence that Earth is certainly not flat, and possibly, absolutely certainly not flat forever, eternally into the future. Okay, here's evidence that the Earth is not flat, that it's really, in fact, spherical in shape. This was taken by a moon probe. That this is the moon down here. Okay. The shape of the Earth may change in the distant future, but any change to flat is improbable to impossible due to physics. It might vaporize, it might be crashed into by another celestial object, and so it may no longer be totally spherical. But it's unlikely that because of gravity, that it will reform itself as a flat disk. Okay, this is about the far side of the moon. The near side of the moon has been visible for millions of years. When telescopes look at the moon, the near side appears to be spherical. The far side of the moon was not observed until a Soviet space probe photographed it in 1959, confirming its spherical shape. Okay, here's a good shot of the far side of the moon, and I think it does a pretty good job of showing its spherical shape here. Okay, before then, the moon's far side spherical shape was predicted from information about other large celestial bodies. Okay, here's the far side of the moon and here's the near side of the moon. What they didn't predict, or what they didn't know, was that the far side of the moon doesn't have all these, what they call seas or Mars, and they weren't able to predict whether the far side had that or not. Well, it turns out this side always faces the Earth, and that side always faces away from the Earth. So the formation of these Mars might have something to do with the fact that the moon faces the Earth all the time. Okay, when photos of the far side of the moon confirm that the moon's shape was spherical, the truth of the moon's spherical shape went from probably true to certainly true. The reason for not absolutely true is because the moon, like the Earth, could lose its spherical shape in the distant future. This example shows how future changes in qualities can change the truthfulness of assertions about qualities. Okay, now this is the last one. This is about the physical existence of God. Billions of people believe in the existence of a God or gods, depending on how narrow or broad its defined existence is. 1, physical, real, actual, causal. And 2, and abstract concession. That is, 2 is actually 1 and 2 together. Okay? To believe or know that a God exists as an abstraction, concept, metaphor, allegory, myth, parable, or apologue does not require a belief in a physical God. An omnipotent God, a creator God, a willful God, a causal God, an omnipresent God, a communicative God, and an omniscient God, a telekinetic God, are all physical gods. While some believers of physical God assert they have physical experience with a God, most believers acquire their information about a God from secondhand hearsay, including family, religious leaders, other believers, Bibles, and other religious writings. Physical God believers have a wide variety of, and some are contradictory beliefs about God's attributes and qualities. Christians are monotheists who believe one and only one God is physical, omnipotent, a creator, voluntarily invisible. And why I say voluntarily invisible is because if he's omnipotent, he could make himself visible if he wanted to, and he chose not to. Now, people will disagree that they've seen God. I don't know. He's judgmental, and a male father who caused a human woman, Mary, to become pregnant with a male child born Jesus. Okay. Non-belief includes no belief about God's existence and a belief no gods exist. Non-believers assert that insufficient credible evidence exists to believe a physical God probably exists. 2. Believers' differing assertions about the attributes and qualities of a physical God are not credible nor plausible. Therefore, a physical God's existence is either insufficiently true or false, probably false, certainly false, or absolutely false. Okay. In future videos, okay, that's the end of the examples. In future videos, let's see, objective knowledge, belief, truth, reality, and ethics will be discussed in my next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.